I believe when Trump, everything he campaigned on, I believe he wanted to do. And now he's doing the exact opposite thing.
How should we respond to this? So, some bro podcasters of the Flagrant podcast, hosted by comedian Andrew Schulz, that backed Trump during the election, now admit that they were duped. And, in fact, are supporting democratic socialists. So, in this video, I want to go over what the hell is going on here, how maybe we should feel about this, conflicting thoughts online about these clips, as well as later on, I'll get to a clip from a liberal podcast that is going harder on Democrats than a lot of other places are in a way that I think is fantastic and something that Democrats need to feel more pressure from. But before I get there, let's get to some clips from this Andrew Schulz podcast. So, yeah, these guys back Trump. I don't know how you back Trump and somehow were fooled. How did you not realize the first time? So here's the first clip where they're discussing Trump's complete unwillingness to acknowledge the Epstein files now, let alone release them.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
So we're stupid.
Yeah.
we're the fucking idiots, guys. That is, I think, what is enraging people right now is it's insulting our intelligence. Like, obviously the intelligence community is trying to cover it up. Obviously the Trump administration is trying to cover up. Something changed because they ran on this idea of exposing it all. All these guys had great ideas. Cockeyed Cash, Dan Bongino.
He had clips, dog. He had bars.
He was ready to tear it all down. He was ready to tear down the entire FBI office.
Shut down the Hoover building day one.
Day one.
That bitch still standing.
And then he goes on Joe Rogan and he's like, listen, do you think if I had it, I wouldn't share it with you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I do believe that 100%, especially when you're staring at me like this, telling me that.
One of two things in my mind is possible. One, you're covering it up. Or two, nothing really happened and you exploited the rape of thousands of children to get your man elected. So which one do you want here?
It really should not have been able to get this far for them to finally begin to realize what is happening. Again, that's if they're even being honest here about their initial thoughts about this entire thing and the fact that they weren't just really riding a wave as opposed to having any real thoughts about what was going on during the election. Because they posted this video online on Twitter with this caption, "So we're the idiots, right?" And a lot of reactions to this. The Vanguard posted, "Yes, because you thought this guy was going to release the Epstein client list." I mean, there are decades of images, videos, write-ups. This is from New York Magazine back in 2002, Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Mystery, where Donald Trump is quoted here. And yet, if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges. Quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy." Trump booms from a speakerphone. "He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." All of this was publicized. These weren't hidden articles. This was republicized. This was images out. Like, this was out there. You didn't have to wait till now to realize Trump's connections to Epstein. So to think that this man had any interest at all at releasing what was in those files, you have to be incredibly stupid. So this gets to how we should feel about these people. Comments like this from Brandon here. For openly and actively taking the word of con men, for barely ever doing basic due diligence just because you like the attention and platforming you got from being fake contrarians. Yes, you're the idiots. They played you. Daryl Owens here. Actually, Trump clocked your intelligence very well. He knew you, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, and other incel podcasters are losers producing content for male losers that are easily fooled and manipulated. Then there's this perspective from PB Gomez. Look, I understand the urge to dunk on guys like this. Trust me, I really do. But it's critical that people like this feel like they can admit a mistake and recant their support for Trump without feeling cornered. I'm of two minds here because I believe this is true for some people. I think for some people, shame puts them back in the box and they are unwilling to admit the faults that they made and, or the mistakes that they made and learn from that. Then there are other people where you have to shame them for them to learn, for them to wake up. And those people often are men, more, people that try to present themselves as confident bros. Because a great recent example of this is a literal punch in the face. This Canadian man got destroyed by a former NHL player. This is, I'm sure most of you by now, at least in my little world, have seen this video where this man's playing golf. He's unwilling to move on from the hole, and he basically just gets belligerent and gets thrown in the pond. And keeps coming back, and basically he's just completely humiliated. So this became a massive meme. Here he is, Nick Tarnasky, oil on canvas. Nick Tarnasky is the NHL player that knocked him down. But a few days later, this guy came out and apologized. The golfer who got tossed into the pond during the slow play altercation has released an apology video. Played 36 holes of golf. We drank way too much, and my mouth ran faster than my brain. This guy was publicly shamed in the worst way possible and admits, yeah, he was an idiot. He made a mistake. Now, this is a quite literal sense of being punched in the face, but if even, making fun of guys like this, that somehow, again, were fooled by Trump, I don't think necessarily is a bad thing. So yes, while some people need to be babied, others, that's not going to work. And in this case, these people discovered this themselves. They didn't have to have somebody on to baby them into realizing what was going on. They found it out themselves. And if they're now actually going to be critical of Trump and do it on a consistent basis and not just, in random clips that go viral, then awesome. I'm not going to criticize them on that. That's good. That's movement in the right direction. But they're going to get shamed. Even if we say, hey, you shouldn't shame these people, it's going to happen because it was so stupid for them to believe Trump to begin with. This gets to the next clip now.
I believe when Trump, everything he campaigned on, I believe he wanted to do. And now he's doing the exact opposite thing of every single fucking thing.
I don't know what he's done. Yeah, exactly to your point. If you tell me, it's easier for me to believe you wanted to do all these things if any of them were happening in the way that you said they would.
To that point, like there'll be people that they'll DM me and be like, you see what your boy's doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for.
Yeah.
I want him to stop the wars. He's funding them. I want him to shrink spending, reduce the budget. He's increasing it. It's like everything that he said he's going to do, except sending immigrants back. And now he's even flip-flopped on that.
All right, I don't know how he's flip-flopped on the immigrant part. That's the one thing Trump is definitely doing in a way that is surprising a lot of people because the vast majority of cases, the vast majority, are not criminals, not violent criminals. They're just completely innocent people. You've seen the videos, the disturbing Gestapo-like approach that ICE has taken to trying to deport people. It's really gross. So, you voted for this, idiot. But this gets to the heart of that clip here, where Brian Tyler Cohen has a really good breakdown of the people that were conned by Donald Trump. Trump promised to release the Epstein files, and he closed the case without releasing anything. Trump promised lower costs, launched a trade war instead that sent costs higher. Trump promised to end the Russia-Ukraine war on day one. It's still raging 6 months later. Trump promised a booming economy. The U.S. is the only industrialized country in the world whose economy is contracting. Trump promised to cut federal spending, signed a budget that will add $4 to $6 trillion to the debt. Trump promised to end tax on Social Security, didn't do it, and lied that he did. If you believed him, you've been conned. And of course, there's more you could add to that. Trump promised he wouldn't cut Medicaid. He's cutting Medicaid. Like, it goes on and on and on. Now, you could say, oh, well, people they were fooled by Donald Trump. He was president before. You saw how full of shit he was before. You've seen his career of being full of shit. You could just watch him in his speech and tell he's full of shit. How focused he is on himself. He's the ultimate narcissist. For you to think this guy cares at all about anything, like you're living in a completely different world. So, shame, in fact, is being too kind. I do not understand how anybody could have been this dumb. Now, it's one thing if you're an individual voter and you don't have a platform where you're speaking to millions of people who listen to your every word. These people have that platform. When you have a platform like this, you have a responsibility to know what you are talking about when you get into issues that matter. And they never had that. They never thought they had that responsibility or cared to have the responsibility. They never cared to really investigate what they were talking about. Clearly now, things have shifted a little bit. They had on Bernie Sanders about a month ago. They've had on guests that live in reality in a way that Trump supporters do not. So hopefully things are changing, and the audience, which I have to imagine is largely, quasi-political, apolitical, maybe pay somewhat close attention, but not too close, because if they did, they'd probably stop listening to the podcast. But, that kind of audience is incredibly malleable, which is why it's even more important for a podcast like this to know what they are talking about. Now, I just saw this and I have to I have to share how stupid this is. This is the New York Times. This is from a piece in, I want to get the date proper, June 21st, 2025. This is a recent piece. Andrew Schulz, podcast bro, might be America's foremost political journalist. Like, this is the same place. I believe it's the same place. It's either them or the Washington Post that did a whole piece on Ben Shapiro being the cool kids philosopher. I think that was back in 2017. Like, just these people who are so out in their own world, do not care about reality, do not have a principled basis of human rights, of workers' rights. Being called political journalist is must be disturbing to actual political journalists. I wouldn't even call myself a journalist. I'm a commentator. So to try and claim he is a journalist is insulting to anyone that actually works for a living. So I got to play this.
The only party right now that to me seems America first is the Democrat Socialist Party.
Yep.
Bernie is America first. Mamdani and all his ideas that he will not be able to execute, and I frankly think many of them are not good ideas, but he is no doubt New York first. The policies seem to want to help people here. That's what I care about. If MAGA wants to take this America first thing back, they got to start looking out for America, and it doesn't seem like they're doing. Lying to Americans is not America first. There is one lie, which is Epstein did not have a blackmail ring on all these very influential people. And by saying that that didn't happen, you have to tell a lot of other little lies. Every one of them just pulls a little piece of thread away from the fabric. And we're starting to see right through right now, and it's just embarrassing.
Now, I think it's important to note that these people are as malleable as their audiences are. We've seen it with Joe Rogan. We've seen it with Theo Vaughn. They can change with the wind, change with the vibes, change with the guests they have on in front of them. It's great they're saying this now. It's great they're recognizing in this clip, hey, the actual future or the way forward is through what Bernie Sanders is doing, through what Zohran Mamdani is doing, through what the Democratic Social like AOC are doing. This is the way forward. For them to acknowledge this and acknowledge that Trump is full of shit, that's great. Is this going to stay consistent? Are they going to be saying this next week, in a month, in 2 months, in a year, or are they going to be shifting with the wind? Which is why I think it's important to remind them how stupid they should feel if they're going to back Donald Trump again. But this gets to the last clip I want to share. This is from the Liberal podcast, I've Had It podcast, with Jennifer Welch and Angie Pumps Sullivan. So they are doing more with their platform than I'm seeing networks do, than I'm seeing the vast majority of podcasts that lean left do, where they are directly calling out politicians. And keeping in mind, they have had on Democratic congresspeople. They had on Hakeem Jeffries recently, and then she went on to criticize Hakeem Jeffries. This clip isn't even about that, but I could have brought that one up too. This is about targeting politicians who are unwilling to support Zohran Mamdani because, at least partly because, of the money they are receiving from AIPAC. And I'm going to get to a real-world example of how this has already had an impact.
And if your kids in Israel want to go to a higher education, guess what? They don't have to go in debt because it's subsidized by us, by these politicians. Let's do roll call. Let's put them up. Let's call them out. Let's go. New York Democrats who haven't endorsed Mamdani and their AIPAC bag. Let's go. Representative Laura Gillen, $94,905. Representative Adriano Espialat, I'm butchering his last name, $202,000. Representative Tom Suozzi, $312,000. Representative Dan Goldman, $366,000. Representative Gregory Meeks, $690,000. Representative Grace Ming, $619,000. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, almost $1 million, coming in at $997,000. And I will remind you that she engaged in Islamophobic attacks on this mayoral candidate and didn't defend Islamophobia, yet is so quick to call out anybody as being anti-Semitic. And that's the thing in this, is that we can speak out against the provocations and the war crimes of the Israeli government, and they don't get to hold us hostage and tell us we're anti-Semitic. That's bullshit, and don't fall into that trap. Next up, Representative Richie Torres, $1.5 million. Senator Chuck Schumer, $1.7 million. Hakeem Jeffries, $1.7 million. Representative George Latimer, $19 million, almost $20 million. Pumps, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think you can't serve two masters. You cannot take money from a group and then be completely neutral as to other members of different groups. And if you're going to take that much money from somebody, they're expecting you to further their interests.
I love this so much. And it apparently, potentially has already had an impact, because just a few days later, the name that she couldn't pronounce there, Representative Espat of New York, which I think I'm saying it right. I'm not even sure. But he backed Zohran after being called out for not backing him. Now, we can't say directly it was because of that podcast, but there was pressure put on him for some reason. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done the endorsement. So very cool to see that reaction there. This is the power of these sorts of podcasts like this. Podcasts that reach more of you could say, normie audience, people that may not pay all that close attention to the policies and what is going on politically, but to have a group of informed people like this I've Had It podcast, these two ladies here, and inform their audience about what is going on. This is how you move people in the right direction.